Hi, and welcome to the podcast channel for podcastmybusiness.com.au and also the video channel for contentmadeeasy.com.au. And today we've got another AI interview with Andonis Sakatis. How are you, Andonis?
Doing very well, thank you. Thanks
Did
very
I
much.
pronounce that correctly, or did I pronounce that like the little Sakatar crackers?
First people struggle with the first name, but you nailed it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. All right, so cool. So, like I said, we're talking a bit more about AI in a series of interviews that we've got. And today we're doing a little bit of a perspective in relation to startups and AI. So, AI isn't how you start a business, people that start businesses. And I like your approach that you go looking for people and help them rather than coming up and I'll say with a begging bowl
Mhm.
to get funding. How does that work?
Yeah, the traditional route of building a startup is founder has an idea and they try to build a team, get capital, build the product, and they try and do a lot of things all at once. And when you look at the risk behind startups and the failure rate, one of the big assumptions there is that a founder has to come up with the idea and they have to push it through. Our model addresses the fact that if you start with lots of ideas, consider lots of ideas, prototype fast, and look for validation before you then commit capital and build teams, then perhaps you can change the speed at which you grow businesses and the success rate that you grow businesses. And that's why, as a venture builder, the model turns the assumptions on its head and it allows for speed and greater success rates is our target.
Okay. So how what is actually a VC, a venture capitalist builder?
So, a venture builder is someone who creates startups from scratch, deliberately, repeatedly, and systematically. And what that means is generate ideas, build prototypes, look for validation, then create a company, fund it with your own capital, and then assemble a team of founders that are perfectly fit for that idea, and then embed with them. And we choose a 2 year period to ensure that by the end of that 2 years, they are investor ready, independent, and they're on their trajectory. So we focus on the 0 to 1, and the founders focus on the 1 to um,
Forever.
forever.
Yeah. Now, that's actually a good idea because we were talking before about Tech Central, and I'm a member of Collab Space for the ACU, which is also for startups. And that first year or two is really, really hard and really, really critical.
Yeah, the community is everything, and people talk about that a lot. The Australian culture is one of pay it forward, look after your neighbours, and you just need the people in the same place. And I think if you operate out of a really strong community, it's the water cooler conversations. It's the, hey, this is what I'm looking at right now. Do you have any bits of advice, or what are you trying to solve for this? And I think in the age of AI, where the landscape is changing quickly. The tools and techniques are evolving fast, and people are rewriting the playbooks every single day. Being in the middle of the information flow is something that, if you are in a physical location where your people are talking about the same things, you don't have to carve out time to go out of your way to just absorb this information, put into action. In other words, osmosis of the way to do things
Yes.
going forward is
Yeah.
on your side.
Yeah, and that's right. That's why we have the collab space because it is about collaboration. Really, really important. So, in the age of AI, um, does it make things easier or harder to start up?
I think the in the past I call it the capital era, and that is where capital was required to hire people to create things. And we now stare at the speed era, and the speed era means that the unit economics of building have changed. You can very quickly research, you can very quickly build prototypes, and you can very quickly and at scale get validation. So you can do things fast. But what that means is if it's cheap and it's fast, does it mean that the quality is there? And I think what now has happened is there's been a an opportunity for a oversupply of ventures, which is a good and bad thing. And so what we think is to solve the speed era, you need a system, and a system increases the quality so that you take speed in your stride and you make sure that what you create is a bar of quality to succeed amongst what else is out there.
All right, I'm going to use a couple of acronyms here. So, does that lead to more VC AI slop?
Uh, I think that I think it gives the opportunity to create lower quality content. But actually, if you look at what the likes of LinkedIn are doing, they're actually steering the way that they look at the content and look at what you produce. And they actually see whether or not you're just engaging or whether or not you're providing long form value. They look at things like saves. They look at the they actually read the articles and they align it to who you are. So if you are talking about subject A, but your background is subject B, they will pick up on it. In other words, you have to assume that the same intelligence that creates the slop can actually check itself. So therefore, let it become the filter to itself. And I think what it has done is it's empowered people to not necessarily have to go through engineers to build good quality products or go through content creators to create and put voice to their thoughts. And so, in my opinion, it's creating opportunity for everyone, and it's down to us to filter it and to trust the systems to do that.
That's interesting. So, when it comes to content creation, and AI is capable of creating a lot of stuff. That's why I like, podcasts and videos, and this is why I do podcasts and videos and encourage people to do podcasts and videos like this, because it does separate you from everybody else that's just getting AI just to do pure blogs and that's it.
Yeah, correct.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think the major benefit here is you can go from concept to your audience very quickly. So it doesn't have to change your core focus, which is building your product. And with all AI, what you put in is equal to what you put out. If you frame a lot of your thoughts, if you give AI your context, if it knows who you are, what you're doing, then in some ways it can do a better job than you can. And I wouldn't just outsource it completely. I would say, hey, maybe take these thoughts that I have and help me structure it, and then let me look at it, and then let me frame it, summarize it, crunch it down. And then people can take the output of that. And if you can go through that process quickly and the quality is higher than even if I did it myself, I think there's a value add there.
Yeah, exactly right. So, I mean, that's the thing. Does the execute? Just thinking about something else. I've got a question I was going to ask, and I've lost it for now. Okay, all right. So, tell me a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, my background is I came through university as a computer engineer and I entered the world of financial markets, and my specialty was data. So I helped build big systems and processes to fuel data that ultimately led to trading decisions. I joined very small, very highly capable trading teams, and we were in a place where we were hiring, you know, math Olympiads, the best in finance, and ultimately helped to grow and shape not only uh, data systems, but I ended up building trading teams. And so I came from a system thinking background, an automation background. And what was incredible about that experience was it was in a sector where data was prevalent and data was structured. And that same skill set now, when you stare into the future and what AI is giving us, it's allowing everyone to compete with unstructured data and to build systems and processes and to get those efficiencies. So, in some ways, I feel like Marty McFly from having lived through an evolution in the finance
Yeah,
world. And
yeah.
now I stare at the non finance world and the non automated world. And this tooling that we now have is the opportunity that if we apply to different problems, real problems, business problems, product problems, we can deliver outliers in terms of customer service and quality products out there.
And I see we still don't have our AI hoverboard yet, so
Not
you
yet.
know,
But the drone technology out there is pretty good now.
it is. Well, yeah, it's being used for all sorts of things, so it's definitely helpful. So, does the real advantage now become execution, visibility, and trust?
Yeah, we look at the fact that in business it's not just about the idea. Our thesis is everyone has a good idea, but it's how you execute it, the timing of that, and who you're executing it with. And for that reason, when we think about what kind of personalities make good founders and generally good executors, high agency is one of the things that we search for, we look for, and we try to hold ourselves accountable to every day. If you've not heard about this, the school of thought is there's three aspects to high agency, which is disagreeability, which is I know it's been done like this before, but is there another better way? First principle thinking. And then clear thinking is being able to articulate what the chosen path is. And then a bias to action. I've made my decision. I'm just going to focus on that and not let distractions kind of change my route to that goal. So when you think about the fact that things can be done so quickly and so cheaply and so easily now, high agency differentiates the doers from the non-doers because they're the people who see the opportunity, focus on it, and take the everyday steps to get there.
So, looking at that, what opportunities do you think people are missing right now?
I think the opportunities exist where big firms, incumbent firms who have had the advantage of capital and big distribution so far, who are not very efficient at delivering what they deliver, are great opportunities where people can create very efficient versions of those products and those services and just start delivering them. In other words, it's the opportunity to have a very low operational cost structure to deliver the same services, but deliver it at a fraction of the cost. And if you can take that thesis and scale from very, very small to, small and medium, then the opportunity that you have a more efficient engine for delivering value is the way forward. And I think that's why the pattern we see is everyone talks about software as a service and SaaS apocalypse, and now the service as a software model. And the way I zoom into that and the way I think about it is if someone is delivering the value to someone else and they're doing it really cheaply, really efficiently, and it's all encompassed in the delivery, that takes it back to those pillars of it's not just about the idea, it's how you achieve it, the choices you make in your systems, the way you run, how quickly you run, the level of customer satisfaction you have, and ultimately how that drives your business going forward.
Mm. So I'm just thinking if I'm, working in a traditional office type environment, even if I'm working from home a couple of times a week or what have you, and I'm getting increasingly frustrated with inefficiency. Let's say an accounting firm, just for want of ease. And I think I've got this great idea, and I know I can do it better. So how do I get myself noticed by someone like yourself?
Yeah, we don't search for founders with ideas, but we do search for people who think about all the ideas out there and solving problems and are happy to fall in love with one. We just want people who are like you described to just reach out and we will have a conversation. We'll understand your strengths and we will then look for ideas that are a really strong match where we start seeing traction on and then marry them up. But I think if I was to give advice to everyone, I would say constantly question the way things are done before and if the technology can be applied to do things better. And with that, doing it better, quicker, higher quality, there is an efficiency gain that is value that can be transferred, and there is a business and a process in there somewhere. The biggest challenge is actually keep in touch with the toolkits and knowing what is changing and what's applicable. 9 times out of 10, it's not that it can't be done, it's that no one has applied the knowledge to the action. So this is why the thought is we're in this era where people who absorb information very quickly, understand and think about the process and simplify it, and then just take the action and continuously refine, they're the people that will get to the optimum far, far quicker than anyone else. And the faster they are at doing that and the higher quality they are, that is their moat. And they can continue to own that.
So, why do startups still fail despite technology?
Yeah, we categorize startup failure into five key things. We think that a lot of startups fail because it's just an idea and it's not a validated opportunity. Is the market big enough? Are you differentiated enough? Is it overly competitive? All the things that go into the idea validation. The second thing is it's very easy to lean into people you know, not people you need. Is this the perfect founding team for this idea? Now, when you go down the traditional route and you're working out the idea and you're leaning into who you know, there's quite a big chance that the idea will take a different pivot, different form by the time you're already kind of in with the people you're running it with. So you tend to have these imperfect teams. And what that means is making those changes is quite hard if they're known relationships. The second part is with every business, there's an overhead of things you have to just do, accounts like you described, dealing with ASIC and all the operational, the almost like the silent infrastructure that every business needs. And what you find is that if you don't do that quickly and efficiently, you stop building the product and you start just running a business for the sake of running a business. The the fourth thing is capital timing. At some point, if you want to scale faster than what your revenue streams are, you have to take down capital and timing that and spending time on that. And is it too much, too little, and getting the runways right can cause a stop-start approach, or in some, some bad situations, run out of time. And then the last one is alignment, making sure that the people who are part of that journey are equally aligned to the end goal is something tricky. And I feel like the future are highly aligned people, small teams, not just given, a salary, but rather aligned to a company succeeding in its mission. And the more aligned you can be, the better. But the traditional route is that it is the opposite, and people have kind of realized that that misalignment causes misdirection.
Yeah, I had a couple of things pop into my head, so I'll revisit some of them. So, I guess these days, considering where you are in Tech Central, you don't want to be Atlantis. You want to be Atlassian. Sorry, you want to be a potential supplier to Atlassian, where you're smaller without having to be the size that they are.
Yeah, my I look at my past and what started as a four-person team trading ultimately overtook a whole investment bank's worth of trading team. Like these things can happen, and I've lived through that evolution. Small teams, highly capable, are very, very valuable. And as long as you have a strong team, highly empowered, highly responsible, highly skilled. In terms of what we're trying to build at Repeat Builders, we're not necessarily trying to build the next OpenAI, the next Atlassian, because to build those very, very large firms may take very, very deep pockets. And what we try to align to is building things that are that are faster starts, smaller, leaner teams, and potentially have earlier exits. And that's because our value proposition is compounding. It's 0 to 1. So the more times we can do that, the better. And so we have to balance between building something that is fit for a day and something that is fit for a lifetime.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we were talking a bit about funding and what have you, I always say people when you start off, only spend what comes in rather than, worrying about the website and the business cards and all the things you've got to do. Just get out there, get some income, get some revenue,
Yeah.
start spending that first, and then you can decide on, if you want to go get some more money.
Yeah, I think this approach is about imperfection and about the fact that you're searching for the validation, you're searching for the income before you're justifying spending it. You're managing your risk. And I think we take that principle and we say that we want to see that revenue stream, that willingness to buy before taking the risk with the A team that need to come in to drive it forward. And it's that principle reapplied everywhere. And I think this is where people can take the big bets. and they are absolutely welcome to, and there are big prizes at the end. But we shouldn't get caught into the fact that every business has to be risky and every business needs to fail 9 out of 10 times. There are other routes, and sometimes those other routes are a better fit for people because people are looking for a different risk profile in the risky business of startups.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's something else that you said before that popped into my head, and you were talking about where to get initial advice and what have you. And what popped into my head was, instead of asking your parents for advice, ask the in-laws for advice.
Yeah, it's sometimes I would say ask many people for advice
Yeah,
and
of
get
course.
different
Yeah,
ranges and different views.
yeah.
And I think a big part of being in a physical location like the collab space you mentioned and Tech Central is you need perspective, and different perspectives should be considered, and then it's your responsibility to form a view, focus on it, and execute. But the worst person is a person who is closed to different views, is not thinking about where the world is going, because the direction can change, the environment can change, and that's ultimately what most founders right now, the very question they have is, how is the world changing and how do I need to position myself, my firm, my people for that future?
Mm. Yeah, exactly right. And in the age of general AI, I hate using the term just AI because it's not correct. It's yeah, you got to be fast. You got to pivot. I pivoted. You've all got to pivot so rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is the high agency where it's the pivot is the bias to action. It's understanding that a slightly different course is needed. And our view is that ultimately building businesses is a continuous series of pivots that gets you to a goal. There's not one pivot that changes everything, and whoever gives up on thinking about the next small pivot that they need for the business ultimately are the new incumbent, and that's where you have to stay hungry.
Yeah, always stay hungry. I like that. Anything else you'd like to add, Andonis?
Not just the fact that I think Australia has a wealth of opportunity. I think that we are highly capable people. We create businesses naturally. We act as a community. We pay it forward. And this is probably why, when you look at the stats last year, we produced the number one unicorns per VC dollar anywhere in the world. We're a small population that's highly capable. And I think that now, if you take this technology and you take the very capable people and you leverage them and you say that it's not the history or the incumbents that is the barrier, I think everyone is staring at opportunity. And I think really the big thing is to form your view, understand yourself, and take the opportunity and run with it and take the action. And I think it's an incredible, exciting time for not just technical people to
Mm,
take AI, but
mm,
non-technical people. I've seen
mm.
incredible feats from people who have never written a line of code create very complex systems. And when I stare at that, I feel like the opportunity to create very low cost autonomous firms are there, and you can deliver the domain value that you spent a lifetime on to others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to finish up by saying to everybody, stay hungry.
Absolutely.
Thank you.